In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, please be seated. I'm not sure why this side is fuller than this side. It's like the boat is going to tip over here. Our opening hymn this morning, verse 3 of the opening hymn, I have it underlined in my prayer book, hymnal, and it has been underlined for years. It's the third verse, and it says, "Cure thy children's warring madness, bend our pride to thy control. Shame our wanton selfish gladness, rich in things and poor in soul." I have it underlined in my prayer book because I believe that it speaks to me. I believe it is a good message. It reminds me that I am one of them who needs to be reminded about the lesson that hymn is trying to lead us into. It speaks to me. This morning in our gospel passage, in our message from Matthew, we get the story of the coin. And they are trying to trap Jesus into making a decision on pick a side. We need you to pick a side. We need you to tell us, who do you back? And they present to him an issue, and they challenge him to try to make a decision because it's a no-win situation. It's a no-win situation. If he answers one thing, he's in trouble with one. And he answers another, he's in trouble with the other group. They send two groups. They're both from the temple. One is the group of the Pharisees, the temple priests, the people who are following the laws of God. And the other are the Herodians, those that support, they worship with them perhaps, but they support King Herod, hence Herodians. They're the Herodians. They support the Roman presence in Palestine. And they say, who picked Jesus, which is the one that we follow? And Jesus says, do we follow the king, the emperor? And Jesus says, give me the coin. So he pulls a coin out, and they shows a coin, and said, whose image is on this coin? Now this is a pretty famous passage. Whose image is on this coin? Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, render unto God that which is God's. So he says, whose image is this on here? And they said, oh, it's the emperor. And they said, great. And his response is, well, render unto the emperor that which belongs to the emperor, and render unto God that which belongs to God. Now Jesus gives them a perfect example. Says, here is the coin. You can touch this coin. Render unto them that which you can feel and touch. That's okay, do that. But Jesus does not give them an example of what it is we should render unto God. The story gets cut off. But what Jesus is trying to tell them is, and as we heard in the hymn that we just this second sang, we hear in there that what Jesus wants us to do is to allow our face, our bodies, our hearts, our souls to be a reflection of God. And you see, Jesus uses this image that talks about this image because the word in Greek would be icon, E-I-K-O-N, which we use as icon. It's the icon. Whose icon is on the coin? Whose icon is on this coin? On the penny, it's Abraham Lincoln. Whose image? In the church, we have icons all over the place. We have an icon right in the back of the church over the candles. You might see this as an icon. We might use the cross that we wear around our neck to serve as an icon, as a reminder. It's an image that we use to remind us. It's the image we want to reflect. That's who it is. And in this challenge that we get from Jesus, we get this image that we are trying to be the image of God to those that we meet. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to conduct our lives in the eyes of God so that we can reflect God's love. We can be icons for God's love to everyone that we meet. It is not easy to do. This past week, in Gainesville, at the University of Florida, if you were reading the news, Richard Spencer, one of the white nationalists, decides he was up in Charlotte during the summer, got that thing done, and comes down to the University of Florida, and is going to speak at the University of Florida, and he has brought his hate group with him. And I've got to tell you, I'm a Gator. I'm an alumna of the University of Florida, and I thought they did a pretty good job of responding. There was some anger there, and there was some rebellion, and there was a lot of shouting, but there was also some other really wonderful things that were done, and there was also some response from others who had driven in from another place and shot at people. We have got to bring this rhetoric down, this divisive rhetoric that we have. And it is not easy because it riles us up. Evidently, what's going on is riled up one group of people, which just riles up the rest of us. I was having a conversation with a parishioner in the back of the church before we came in. We were talking about forgiveness, and I said, "No, I'm still working on that." And they said, "You're working on forgiveness?" I said, "Oh my gosh, yes." "Are there people that you haven't forgiven?" Yes. Yes. Sometimes it's me. But yes, we continue to work on that. And once maybe we've cleared the slate and we've forgiven everybody, which I haven't, some more pop up. And it's a challenge for us, but that's the challenge that Jesus is trying to thrust upon us. We want to be given this challenge to do what is right in the eyes of God. But up in Gainesville, I've got to tell you, after seeing the news accounts and seeing the news clips of the Nazis that were there, the white nationalists, whose icon is the swastika they're wearing on a t-shirt, or the tattoos that they have, and they're angry, and they're afraid that they're going to lose whatever it is that they have, whatever that is. But they're angry, and they were met by some people who gave that anger right back to them. I've got to admit, I would be one of those people who would have loved to have been there. You go right ahead, you know. When I was up in Augusta at the retreat up in South Carolina, and the Charlottesville thing went on, I said, "Boy, give me a map." And the person who was there, my seminary classmate, said, "No way, you're going nowhere," because she knew exactly where I'd wind up. But the same thing right up the street up in Gainesville, 5-hour drive from here. And we have this protest that is going on, and the people spewing this incredible hate about people they don't even know, about issues they don't even understand. But the hate was there. And there was one article in the Washington Post yesterday, and it talked about one individual, and I don't remember his name, who covered in tattoos, covered in a t-shirt with a swastika on, had that haircut going that just said, "He's pissed," and spewing the hate out of his mouth towards the people that were there. Mixed group, just like here. I mean, you can imagine what was being said. And while he's coming through this gauntlet, I mean, why anybody would do this, just flanked by people, he walks down the middle and just is spewing his hate towards the people that he met that he didn't even know. Somebody came out of the crowd and just clocked this guy right in the face. Now, I've got to tell you, you know me well enough to know that, boy, that sure sounds tempting. Because if he'd have said those things to me in my face, I would like to think there's a part of me that would just be really nice. And I know that there's another part of me that would have dropped that guy like a rock. And that's what happened to him. But he continued to walk down, and then they said in the article that something completely unexpected happened. A man by the name of Aaron Courtney, who was a high school football coach in Gainesville, an African American, walked up to him and hugged him. Hugged him. And said to him, "Why don't you like me, dog?" You know, why don't, just using say, why don't you like me? And the guy says he just does nothing. So he reached around and hugged him even harder around, they said, around his body and around the picture there of his hand around the back of his head. And said, "What have I done? What is it that you don't like? My color, my hair, my dreadlocks, my history? Why don't you like me? What have I done to you?" And the response of the white nationalist was, "I don't know. I don't know." He didn't even know why he had so much hate in his heart. Aaron Courtney said, "I believed him." He says, "I don't think he did know." He says, "I'm not trying to let this guy off the hook. I don't think he knows. I think he was brought up. He's hanging out with people who they're spewing this stuff. And he's looking for something to grab onto. And he grabbed onto that because maybe it's speaking to him somehow. Somebody's convinced him that, you know, someone's taking away what it is. You're going to lose. Because you're white, you're going to lose your power. And somebody else is going to take your place." So that's his response. "I don't know why I hate you." What a lesson to be learned. I do not know that I could have done what Aaron Courtney did and hugged that guy and said, "Why do you hate everybody so much?" I would like to think that I could. And I would like to think that I can continue to work on that and get to that point. I think all of us would. But we're all not there right now. I'm not there yet. But I'm going to work on it. And I ask all of us to continue to work on it. Because giving back hate to hate is just going to continue the hate. It's just going to, until there's just nothing left. We're quite capable of just taking care and eliminating everybody. We can't do that. We've got to figure out that there's got to be another way, and that is the way that Jesus Christ is trying to tell us. It is not easy, but Jesus has been trying to communicate this message to us for 2,000 years. And God has been trying to communicate that lesson to us for thousands of years. That we need to reach out and to love one another. We need to allow our icons not to be symbols of Nazism or the symbols of power and greed and materialism. They need to be symbols of love in our hearts. They're the things that Jesus was saying, I can't tell you what, I can't put a finger on it. It's not a material thing. It's what's inside of your heart. I need to be able to see it in your face. If you go and Google the Washington Post article about that, you'll see the look on this African American's face that you can see on his face. He's got the face of saying, I love you. Which is pretty incredible considering the circumstances. The encounter was brief. They separated. The police escorted this guy away. But somebody was there to catch that. Somebody was there to be able to capture that image and saw what was going on and be able to communicate to us this is, and they're not trying to do it in a Christian way, they're just saying this is what good looks like. And it is. I don't want my icons to be images of hate or an inability to forgive. I want my icons to be the face and the heart of Aaron Courtney, who asked simply, why do you hate me? That's an icon that we could follow. That is a very human icon that we can follow. That's what Jesus Christ is trying to teach us. It's not easy, but that is what Christ stands for.